Welcome to the Walk Around Podcast. Our goal is to share with you the insights, the skills, the processes, and the leaders that are influencing the retail automotive landscape today. I'm one of your hosts, Nick Funch, as always, joined by Danny Vendrell. Morning, Danny.
Morning, Nick. It's great to be here.
I'm glad you're here with me, and I'm super excited about the guest we have today, Brad Tidal from Goobagoo. Morning, Brad.
Morning. How are you today?
I'm doing fantastic. Gubagoo's been in the news a lot lately with the new relationship with Asbury and Clicklane. But maybe we should just give a little background about yourself and Gubagoo first, and then we'll kind of take the conversation from there. So Brad is the founder and CEO of Gubagoo. He loves the intersection of automotive and technology, has been an industry innovator for over 30 years. You must have started when you were young. Educated at the Canadian Automotive Institute. Brad's first company was Cowboy Corp, an automotive CRM company, which pioneered internet lead management and showroom control. Cowboy was sold to Cobalt in 2002. Brad is passionate about lead and website management, conversion, and online retailing, which drove him to build the top-rated conversational commerce platform at Gubagoo, with messaging and digital retailing products used by over 6,500 dealers worldwide. Brad calls sunny Delray Beach, Florida, home with his family. Welcome, Brad.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's a quite an accomplishment, especially in the technology space. But I think we got to get to the most important question first, and that is Goobagoo. What does that name mean? Where did it come from?
Funny you should ask.
Yeah.
So I thought I heard Tony Soprano say "pass the Gubagoo."
Yeah.
When watching the show years ago, and I went to GoDaddy, found Goobagoo as a single word URL, and I bought it. Then I found out he never actually said Goobagoo. It's not even in their scripts. But my CTO suggested that I use the thesaurus as the explanation, because it says GUBA is an acronym for good, ugly, bad, awesome, and you can use the word goo as sticky leads, which seemed like the smarter way to take the explanation. But ironically, my partner coming back through Europe last summer was wearing a Gubagoo t-shirt, and the customs agent said Sopranos.
Oh,
So, of course, that sent me on a serious search, and turns out he might have said Gubagoo. The truth is, I'm not sure where it came from.
Well, either way, it's a heck of a product, title aside. And so kudos to you. I guess I'm curious around kind of, as you think about Goobagoo as a whole, how does it fit into the retailer space? And I know you've got a lot of different projects going on, but kind of, I guess, overarching, the digital landscape is crazy. There's a lot going on. How do you see your company fitting in, and how does that align with customer experience and what dealers are trying to accomplish?
Sure. So, we started this company as a conversational commerce initially. And then as the online retail space started to open up, we took the approach that, we needed to deliver, a fast, fun, and frictionless experience for consumers. And when we looked at the space, it's a very fragmented space. There's, for the most part, a lead source type of reputation to the retail experience, where we generate more leads and transactions. So we took the approach that by bringing conversational commerce into online retailing, that we could provide some guided assistance. When you look at websites, by and large, it's lonely and cold, and consumers have questions and lack of confidence when coming to buy a car. So by marrying the two solutions together, we were able to provide that guided assistance with an intelligent retail tool that can create that fast, fun, easy, and frictionless experience. And that was really the approach we took.
So a word that sticks out to me, just as you're kind of giving the overview there, is conversational. What does that mean to you all in the way that just that the tool interacts with, as you said, consumers and the dealership's website?
So for us, conversational commerce, right, by definition means that you can connect a buyer and seller in real time and do it across all mediums, all channels that are available today. 10 years ago, it was email, fax, and phone calls. Today, you got Messenger, you got, WhatsApp, you have all these communication devices. So by integrating them, our conversation is that we can meet, greet, qualify, and engage a consumer, but we can also connect the dealer with the consumer in real time and deliver that seamless transition from us to the dealer being brought into any conversation and having all the available tools integrated so that they can assist in that whole online transaction, whether it's helping them part way through the process or nurture them through the entire process. Less than 5% are completing the entire transaction online today, but 95% are having a blended experience where they started online, they complete in the store. So this conversational commerce integration is the key to bridging that consumer gap with online, offline, and in store. Because if you're not chasing that 95% over time, you're not going to perfect how to retail online as these consumers shift entirely to online. And that will, over time, not immediately by any means, but over time, it's going to flip-flop as more consumers adapt and more dealers adapt.
It's interesting. You talked about kind of in the past, it was fax, phone, email. And the challenge was from a dealer side, the customer could have done all three of those things or whatever, different conduits to the store, but a dealer didn't have visibility into kind of all three of those contacts together. How is your technology, I think, helping dealers kind of see that entire ecosystem or sight lines into kind of the different engagement conduits that a customer has in order to kind of create a more frictionless experience?
So the word is omnichannel, and I realize it's a word that is heavily overused nowadays. And
I just heard a buzz as you were saying it.
Yeah, and not always in its truest form, right? So
right.
Well, for us, our definition of the omnichannel is that communication can come in from any one of the channels, but it's all connected in our system as one channel. And this way we can re-engage the customer when they're offline at any time. It's not a matter of just having the customer at the time on site, because you can leave the chat and we can reconnect with you through Messenger, or we can push an email or a text message with some engagement that is related to your concerns, and whether it's a payment update or a better trade incentive that we want to put on the vehicle. And when the consumers open the message up, we're notified in real time so we can re-engage them through chat, texting, go right into a video stream, such as what we're using now, a shared experience. So for us, you can see all the touch points, all the attribution from all channels and the journey of the customer as they flow through it.
Fascinating.
So that makes a lot of sense. And something we talk about often is just validating the consumer's research and that they're spending more time than ever going in to dealers' websites, seeing the cars, the options, the colors, validating the fact that they've done that research. And it sounds like with this conversational platform that really allows dealers to do it. But what I'm curious about is, and you mentioned omnichannel, it's the word, and we talk about it all the time. What are some of just the largest hurdles that dealers are experiencing when it comes from like point A, which is, hey, I'm not fax, email, and a Raven dropping off a message, but I've got a website, I've got some things going, and hey, fully integrated, validating every piece of the research, this kind of state that we're talking about.
So, great technology is a standalone, but not the whole solution. It takes people and process. And so when you're using omni-channel type services where, we're in at least 9 countries now worldwide, and we service millions of conversations a day. And that works great when the dealer's busy and occupied. But the minute somebody's clicks on a payment credit or a trade-in type conversation to really research the purchase of a vehicle, that's where you get the chance to really help nurture the transaction. And dealers need to learn how to know when to jump in and use the process of the technology to help drive the customer. A great example, which we see every day, is, somebody went online, had a conversation, they got a valuation on the vehicle, they didn't transact. And then you go back the next day and realize, well, I could up their offer on the trade $1,000 that could lead to a new vehicle delivery. And when Asbury did the example where they did that online, customer responded to the upgraded trade value, and they jumped back onto the site, and they were able to walk the consumer through the rest of the transaction. It's that type of process and those type of cadence that dealers need to really master now, because as that 95% become more confident online without having to go into the store, the dealers that really perfect that process with the people are the ones that can win the game long term. And so the window is now to perfect the people, the process with the right tech. But the tech has to be frictionless because, when you give a price or a payment on a vehicle and you don't have the payoff, at the end of the day, when the customer comes in thinking there's a payment of $302.20, then they have to go look your payoff up. You're spending more time than you wanted, and then you find out the payment's not what you thought. So, it's part technology, part people, part process. And in the technology, it's removing the friction points so that you really can deliver that end-to-end experience. Even if they don't do it all the way today, having the technology with the people allows you to protect your new retailing craft or process.
The other thing I think that's super interesting to me is if I think about the last 12 months, right? We've seen a tremendous amount of disruption, acceleration, you name it, throughout kind of the navigating the pandemic. And one of the things is consumers are so much more, and I don't even mean consumers, I think people are so much more comfortable with technology. And I just think about myself and my willingness to transact virtually pre-pandemic versus where I am today. It's night and day. And so I think where prior to the pandemic, dealers could have said, hey, listen, we just got to have technology to get us to a certain point, because at the end of it, somebody still wants it. I think consumers' demands have shifted over the last 12 months. And if I'm a dealer, I would want to be able to give the customer the option to never step foot in my store, right? I just think customers are so much more familiar with technology and interacting virtually and not necessarily being in the same physical space. But I think go ahead, Brad.
Funny you say that, because, you have to hunt where the animals are in the forest, and consumers have shifted online more than ever now. When the country reopened in August, I was expecting old habits die hard. Everybody goes back to the old way. But the consumers didn't. The increase in activity and engagement online through the retail tools is even higher. And, there's a big shift there. Consumers, the more you use tools like WhatsApp and all these messaging solutions, it's these new technologies, to your point, that are really grooming customers to change their expectations of what they want out of the tools they use to transact. Because people don't want to fill out forms as much. They prefer real and instant gratification. They look for the real-time assistance today, where a year ago it wasn't as relevant or as essential. So yeah, I couldn't agree more with what you're saying.
Yeah. So maybe pivoting a bit, Goobagoo yourself made quite the splash in December with Clicklane and that whole program. I guess give us some sense of kind of how that came to be, what you were trying to solve for, just kind of overall thoughts around Clicklane and what you hope it kind of turns into.
Sure. So I've known David Hulk for over 20 plus years, and I've known Moran for over 10 years in the space. And so they've already been a customer of ours on the conversational side, commerce, or as people refer to it, omnichannel, for about 5 years. So we had a new release of our first version in February at NADA. So we went out to show Asbury the new generation tool at the time. And obviously we had the intent that we wanted them to buy into our vision and become a customer on this new product. But after about a 2-hour meeting, I found myself shaking David's hand and Moran's hand, and walked out with my team and said, all right, we're building the next generation platform. So while it didn't go the way we planned, David's a thought leader, Moran's a thought leader. We've got a great history with these people. And I just knew from the vision that they had and I have that we were going to do something special and great. And it comes from the fact that the last 2 years, as we did more product releases on the first version, every time I found people would still say, that's great, but. And I wanted to get to the point where there was no more buts. I wanted to get it done. And I believed in David and Moran's vision and their commitment. So on a handshake, blank check, let's go do this. We collaborated 3 days a week, 50 hours, 60 hours a week on our flows, our designs. They were a huge contributor to us making these monumental leaps into solving or resolving the gaps that exist today in online retailing. And together, we put together something extremely special that within 7 months, a lot of people, over 70 plus people a week. We produce this product that is in their brand, their white label name is Clicklane. And it really is a frictionless, fast, fun car buying experience that delivers penny perfect on the trade, which means you can have a penny perfect payment with a VIN specific F&I menu. Everything is lined up so that if you did go for a loan approval, it's actual, it's absolute. Where today, everybody would say, but because you couldn't do a real loan approval without starting with the payoff. And it just solved all the problems from online to what happens in the dealership when the consumer came in. So yeah, it was monumental. Probably one of the greatest career experiences of my life. I can tell you that.
I don't want to gloss over, and I just want to make sure for everyone's sake that we kind of revisit it. Or make sure I have the story right, I guess. So you go in to kind of show off your new product, right? And the outcome of that meeting is probably there. I'm assuming at some point it's like, oh, wouldn't it be cool if kind of thing happens a couple times, and you walk out of there with like, oh, we gotta build this thing. Is that kind of a fair statement?
Yeah, I mean, we went in to show it to them. They really liked the vision of the company, where we were taking the technology. I think David and Moran were impressed that we were every month at improving it. We weren't sitting on the tech, just, writing it out. They recognized in Gubagoo that we were really reinvesting in something. So of course, going in and showing it, the gaps that exist by all of us in the space, it was easy for them to pick up on, and they had the experience of it. So in understanding how we could collaborate together, break the barriers of vendor integration where it was necessary, provide guidance on logic of how we should be doing things or looking at it from a different perspective. I mean, what better subject matter expertise can you get than having David Holt and Ron Merrick and the support of Asbury? They're a reputable organization, and relationships like this on a handshake, they start off strong and they tend to fizzle. I've seen, and our people 24 hours a day at Goobagoo, 60 plus folks working all the time, different parts of the country, making sure we deliver it every week. And they showed up every week, 7 in the morning, 9 o'clock in the morning, committed. And so it took that type of commitment on both sides, knowing that we all had the same vision, same goal. And it was quite harmonious because there was no asking, there was no stopping, there was no questioning. We put a lot of things on hold from our business, our customer base. But we just knew we were going to build something great. It's something that was first to market. And that's a very difficult thing to do, especially when it comes to retailing. A lot of barrier. So,
as you reflect back, I mean, I think a couple things stand out to me, Danny. I'd be curious to get your thoughts a little bit. It's like, hey, you go in and there's no big formal RFP, no big this. It's just kind of, hey, here's a vision, and it sounds like a gentleman's agreement to kind of collaborate and work together. And kind of the output is pretty damn innovative, right? I think at the end of the day, which I think there's probably a lesson there for. It doesn't have to be some fancy, software that's game changing in the retail space. It can just be, hey, put your head down and go to work, and you can look back and know, and you've come a long ways, right? Which is curious.
That's awesome. Something I'm curious about, and just this story I think is representative of a lot of what we've seen. To make Nick's point, over the last 12 months, just kind of crunching down and creating something new, and the innovation, especially in the technology space. And Brad, to your point, the way that consumers have shifted their preference to be online, especially with everything that happened with COVID. And I'm curious, just around, maybe even outside of automotive, just digital capabilities that have been developed over the last year. What are you seeing in other industries that you think would be awesome to kind of bring to automotive, or that could potentially differentiate these kinds of products?
So it's a very great question, broad question. You got everything from deep learning, not just AI-based machine learning that's out there. That obviously, when you're an omni-channel or a fulfillment provider like us, things that create efficiency, greater response time, effective responses are always important. But I would have to say that the thing that stands out to me and mattered the most is not that we're trying to be an Amazon, because we're not, but the Amazon effect is absolute. click, pick, ship. The next day, it's in your hands, right? That's a hell of an experience. You can't quite do that with buying a car when it's the second largest purchase in life people usually make next to a home. So by being able to deliver, and I keep finding myself repeating these words over and over, deliver an intuitive product where you can make it fast, fun, and easy, which is as effective as click, pick, and ship, but have that assistance and the guidance baked into it so that you could deliver the car to their house the next day or have them arrive outside of your store with the paperwork ready to go and the keys in the car ready. That was the experience we want. We want to make sure that we can give that Amazon effect to the consumers. And it's all tied into the conversational commerce platform and omni-channel technology, along with our 2.0 platform that truly allows you to go end to end, even if the consumer chooses not to. Because when they come into the store to finish it off, you're using the same tool, you're continuing where you left off, and it gives you that experience like, wow, that was easy. And that's the experience I want from the technology that we're looking at outside the automotive space. Who's delivering best on that? Because when consumers feel that way, you get a bigger brand and loyalty and following. And that's when we know we are teaching our dealers the best in class practices to deliver that experience, because that's how they're going to win over time in the future. Specific products out there, I realize, but
no, I think it's great. I when I think about my own habits, it's like in buying a car, it probably may not fall into this category, but that impulse buy, I think there's certainly a need. But when you can kind of strike when the impulse is there, like, so if somebody's made a decision to shop, and if you can kind of make it fast, fun, and easy, you're impacting your gross, you're impacting your volume, you're impacting all of those things, because you're kind of catching them when they've decided, hey, I want to shop. If I can get the experience I want, maybe I'll get further down the funnel, and that may lead to a sale. Maybe they drop off a little further than they would have dropped off. But I think it's how do you kind of meet that customer when they're in that impulsive moment, or maybe impulse is not the right word, when they've made the decision to shop, right? They're making the decision. They're not kicking tires, right? They're doing it for a reason. And so if you can make it frictionless, then everything good happens after that,
And our technology was designed exactly around that exact experience. We're notified when somebody's on site. We know when they've returned to the site. We know if they've responded to an offer. We know how to meet, greet, and engage. But when they go into a specific call to action, like payment, credit, buy now, trade, we can redirect that conversation to a more higher level individual with skills around retailing, so that they're actually not trying to qualify and create a lead. They're there to answer every question with objectiveness and yet no sales pressure. Because when you deliver the answers without sales pressure, there is no question we're seeing much higher call to contact ratios when you follow up with the customer offline. We're seeing higher lead to sale across the board. The engagement's higher. And it all goes back to, 66% want to avoid sales pressure, but 60% want to buy online. There's that 88% that still want a test drive. 55% won't go in for a test drive if they can't get a payment online. So when you look at those numbers, you have to realize that you need to assist. You have to expect that they're going to go into the store at some point, and dealers need to learn how to be connected so that you can stay connected with the consumer through the buying journey and deliver that pressure-free sales experience.
Yeah, and I think I remember day one of being in retail automotive. It's like, hey, customers don't like to be sold, right? They like to buy. And when you can give them control, the likelihood of them purchasing is so much greater. So, Brad, this has been very enjoyable. I'm excited about the tool that you guys have created. I'm excited about I love kind of seeing your passion come to life and kind of that consumer experience and how retailing cars can be fast, fun, easy. And it's kind of a win-win for the consumer. It's a win-win for the dealer and a win-win for you too. And so this has been very enjoyable. I think, Danny, as you reflect on our conversation, anything you took out of today?
I just love hearing the story about how it all kind of came together, and, having a conversation about, your mindset and the way that you're delivering with your team. The new wave and ushering in kind of this new mindset of frictionless and to your point, that fast, fun, make it easy, and let technology surround a solid people and process, and that will be what brings your dealership to the next level. What about you, Nick?
Yeah, I think I certainly loved kind of the story around when you have a vision and you put smart people in a room that are trying to solve a problem, chances are a good thing is going to come out of that. And so, when you reflect back on the work that was done in a short window of time to get to a product like this, it's pretty impactful, I think, to think about. And then just making sure you know what your customers are doing, and you can measure that. You can measure where they're falling off and where they're not, and kind of provide some support there. So, Brad, kudos to you. Thank you for joining us today. I know Gubagoo.com is where our listeners can find you, find the tool, get more insight into kind of how Goobagoo can help a dealer create that kind of conversational track sales process to help the customer make a buying decision as opposed to being sold. So thank you. And if you liked this episode, be sure to like it, comment, share it, send us an email, tell us other topics you're interested in. And then until next time, thank you. Thanks, Brad.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate the time.